Welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm Dr. Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, and joining me today is Dan Nocera.
Hello.
And Dan directs our corporate media center, and I thought that since this is one of the more unusual programs I've ever seen on the campus of a community college, it would be great to tell people in the listening audience what the corporate media center is and how did we even get one to begin with, and how did you end up being the person who runs it?
Well, that's an interesting story. I was, this past week, I gave a presentation at the convocation, which you were at, and I was telling the audience that this is my 21st year here at the college. But my story starts actually 25 years ago when I was in high school. I went to Portland High School, and I ended up taking a class here at Middlesex while I was a high school student with John Schaefer, who's one of our instructors.
Oh.
And that was my introduction to television production. And John became a mentor to me and encouraged me, because I wanted to go into film. And he had come from the film industry, worked on several Hollywood movies. He kind of pushed me in the direction of video. He said, you'll always have a job, you'll always... video's the up and coming thing. Everyone's going to be using video in the future, and he was prophetic because I've never been busier. There's so many different companies out there that need video nowadays to help promote themselves on websites or help train their employees. So 25 years ago, I took TV1, and this fall I'm teaching that class.
Nice.
My first class is tonight, so it's an interesting full circle.
No kidding. What kinds of things do you learn in TV1?
TV1 is introduction to television production, and you basically learn the basics. You learn camera, how to use a camera, how to frame a shot, how to tell a story, and you also learn studio production. So we have a television studio here, and the class does a class project. And it varies from semester to semester, but we've done talk shows, we've done cooking shows.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a fun class. It is a lot of work. It's a 4-credit class, so there is about as much time as you spend in class with me, you also spend outside of class working on these projects, like a news story and a short film. It's where all our students start, all our broadcast cinema students at the college.
Thinking about the last 25 years, the world of television has changed so dramatically from the major broadcast stations to now cable. I mean, because, when you talk about cooking shows, and there are at least 2 that I know of channels that are 24/7 cooking shows.
Right.
And then there's Home and Garden, and there's this and that. And
yeah, I can remember when TV used to go off the air at midnight.
Yeah.
And that wasn't too long ago, I mean, at least in my lifetime. But, TV... isn't watched on TV anymore.
I know.
It's watched on smartphones and on computers. So it's changed.
When my daughter went to college in 2007, I said, don't you want to take at least a small television set? And she said, why would I do that? I can watch it on my computer. Yeah. Right. So we will come back in a moment, and we'll talk some more about the Corporate Media Center here at Middlesex Community College. Well, welcome back. This is Anna Wasesha of Middlesex Community College, and today I'm talking with Dan Nocera from our Corporate Media Center. And over the break, we were just chatting a bit about how this thing got started in the first place. So why do we have a Corporate Media Center?
Well, it's a pretty unique place. There aren't many other corporate media centers. I went to Ithaca College, and we had a pro unit at Ithaca College, which was basically a professional production house that was part of the college. But what happened at Middlesex was I started here as the facility technician, and once or twice a semester we would get calls from different clients in Middlesex County or in Middletown that wanted videos, and I started working on those, and from there 1 or 2 turned into 3 or 4 or 5. By the late 90s I was pretty much producing videos full-time for different companies around the state. Companies like Sikorsky Aircraft, Hamilton Sunstrand, Pratt Whitney. We were doing lots of what's called industrial videos, which were training videos in the factory, on the factory floor. So I got to go in with my other students and film them making Black Hawk helicopters. I did a recycling video for Sikorsky aircraft. Well,
What do they recycle?
Well, the goal in most factories is that there's no waste.
Oh, zero waste. My Subaru is. That's what they say about my Subaru.
So we made this fun video. We did a fake television network that had to do with recycling, the recycling network, and it was all these short spots on how people at Sikorsky could recycle, and like we did a sports parody where we showed someone how they could bring cardboard to the recycling area with a play-by-play analysis, and we did some fun PSAs on just recycling. Around the late 90s, I was made the coordinator of the Corporate Media Center, and I was...
That was they invented that job, and that was the very beginning of it for you, for Dan.
Right.
Okay.
The idea started with Rich Lenosi and I. We pitched the idea to several deans at the time, and it was sort of out of the box. We thought we could not only raise revenue for the college, but also give students a real world experience by allowing them to work on these professional productions. Because in the production business, the catch-22 is no one wants to hire you unless you've can show that you've worked on some professional productions. Mm-hmm. And how do you get those on your reel if you're a college student? So this was something that sort of filled both the need of the college and the students. And since then, from the last 10 years, we've gone on to become quite the leader, I think, in the state and even in the country.
I've never obviously made films. Not obviously, but obviously I haven't. I will tell you, in full disclosure, I've never made a film. But I'm a pretty. I've spent a lot of my life editing things, and when you edit material that is new to you, mm-hmm. I've edited a lot on the Taiwan, for example. You learn a lot. So as a filmmaker, you must have learned a lot.
Yes, I'm sort of an expert on lean manufacturing from those first 10 years of doing all those films. I did a whole series on it for Stanley Tools, and they used to fly me around the country. I was in my 20s working for the college, and they flew me to Texas and Virginia to their factories, and I would film all these different lean manufacturing training videos. And so you're right, when you have to teach something, you really have to become an expert in it. So I do ask a lot of questions, and I interview people. That's sort of the beginning of the process. I sit down with the client, and then once we go out with cameras, I also interview the experts. And from there, we start piecing it together, and you can learn a lot from editing different interviews, because you're basically working sentence at a time with what people say, and you're cutting it together to make it make more sense. You're cutting between different interviews, and I think editing is my favorite part of the whole production process. I also teach an advanced editing class in the spring, and if I had to pick what part of the process from development to pre-production to production and post-production, I would pick post-production, which is where everything comes together, and the magic of editing can take something that was okay and can make it into something great, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. just by the way you cut things together. Let
me ask you something, because this has always baffled me. You have obviously a lot of information over this 20-year period of time of making films. How is it indexed, or how would you ever retrieve it other than having you remember that you did a film on ice fishing?
Yeah.
How is with books you can.
Right.
And with Google search engines and things
mm-hmm.
like that, you go for words. But what do you do with images?
Well, I have almost 30 gigabytes or more worth of hard drives from over the years. And the challenge with technology, like you said when we were talking earlier, it's changed so much in the last 20 years. When I started, we were doing video on videotape, and the cameras were heavy, and you wore a deck on one shoulder and a camera on the other, and you could only film for 20 minutes at a time. Now, my cell phone blows that out of the water. And I didn't use computers to edit when I started. I used a really big, expensive series of tape decks and controllers when I started. But to answer your question, every project has a folder, and everything to do with that project I keep in that folder, all the media. And it is a challenge. Over the years, from the last 6 years, I've done 25 projects for DEEP. They started as DEP, now they're DEEP. So there are some older materials that I have that are still on videotape that I need to pull into the hard drives, and that's what's great about having a class and students.
No kidding.
I can give a student, I can say, here, take this, take these 20 hours of footage and log them for me.
And do you do? Is there a measurement then? They can log by 5 minutes in, or how do you log?
You use the editing software, and you every time I pause the camera, it's a clip, and then they take that clip and they can break that clip into subclips, and they can log those clips. So for an interview, it's what I asked them, what the question was, and what their answer was, and then what the future holds is one of the pieces of software I'm experimenting with. It can actually turn voice into text on the computer, and I've tried it. It's about 80% accurate. It translates some of the interviews into some weird things that don't make any sense, but I imagine in the next few years it'll get to within 100% accurate.
I think so. I
And
mean,
then- and
20 years or so ago, there was Dragon Speak software,
Right.
And I played with that, and then I got frustrated too. But I think eventually we won't use keyboards.
Right.
The QWERTY keyboard will be a thing of the past.
Right, we'll just talk. I mean, the phone can already do it, and it's pretty accurate. I text now by talking to my phone. It's kind of strange. You talk to the phone, and then it types out what you said, and then you text it to someone. It's sort of like that. The newer editing software will take an interview and break it into words. And then obviously it's never going to be 100% accurate because of the jargon that different clients use. Like the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, they have a certain language that they use when they speak, and the computer knows normal English, but not all of the specific jargon. So
what you think of what you're doing is industrial videos, but
that's what it started as.
Yeah.
I would say what I do now mostly is government videos, which is another, corporate and industrial, and I do a little bit of everything. But my work with the state is what you would call government video. My work with manufacturers would be called industrial, and my work with businesses would be considered corporate. But it's all using video to communicate and teach with, and tell a story. Really, that's what it comes down to, and that's what I try to teach my students. That no matter what tool we're going to use in the future to make videos with, maybe it'll be our cell phones, or maybe it'll be our eyeglasses, or maybe even our eyes in the future, you'll still need to be able to tell a story, and that never changes.
So my sort of philosophical, psychological question is, why would corporations, government, industry want to use videos? And is it because we're evolving into a society that just learns better from videos, or finds it more approachable? Or what's the thought on that?
I think we are evolving into a visual culture. The nice thing about visuals is they can bridge the language gap. So people I have videos on my YouTube channel, and I get comments and emails from people in other countries. That's one of the things, it's beyond language, the visuals.
That's right. And there are things that we can learn. I hadn't thought about the global implications of all this, but obviously I think we're getting to be a smaller and smaller planet anyway, and so it's really important to do that. And you're right, you don't have to, you're not restricted to language when you've got that as the body of your message, is your medium. So let's take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about specific videos you've made, the best and the most amazing ones, and the ones that you've learned the most from. Well, welcome back. I'm Anna Wasesha. I'm the president of Middlesex Community College here in Middletown, Connecticut. And today I'm talking with Dan Nocera, who's the director of our Corporate Media Center. The first half of the program, we were talking a little bit about how this center was established at the community college here. It's an unusual center. You don't find these things everywhere, that's for sure. I'm still new here and still learning about some of the jewels in the crown at Middlesex Community College, and I think this is one of them. So now, in the last half of our program, I was hoping Dan could tell us something about his favorite videos. So what have you got? What are your favorite ones?
Well, I'd have to go back to my very first video that I did here when I started. Back in 1992, I did a music video for a pharmaceutical company called Anaquest, and they make the gas that anesthesiologists use to knock people out. They wrote a blues song like that you sing and play on harmonica, and they wanted a music video to show at a trade show. That was my first project, and that's sort of when I realized, wow, corporate video can be fun. It doesn't have to be a boring training video. It can be a music video. It can be a parody, a comedy. It can be anything. So that was my first video, and we shot it here in the studio, and I still have it on videotape somewhere.
I'd like to see that. Yeah.
And
you had to hire people to sing.
Well, they brought in the talent.
Uh-huh.
So they all dressed up and wore black sunglasses.
Sort of Blues Brother type.
Yeah, Blues Brothers kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So then moving forward, I'd have to say some of the bigger projects for Deep are the ones that I've learned the most from. Two of our adjuncts, Doug Rogers and Barbara Rogers, they're married, and they teach in our broadcast cinema program. Doug plays tennis, and he was playing tennis in a tennis club, and he met someone from Deep. Happened to mention that we'd been doing projects in the broadcast cinema department with different companies and things, and this person that he met, Rob LaFrance, said, I think Deep is looking to do some videos. Why don't you contact this person? Well, that one sort of connection that was made has turned into almost 30 videos, and 6 years later. And the one that I've learned the most from is a 3-part video. It's for municipal inland wetland commissioners, and it's a training program. Every town and city in the state of Connecticut has a inland wetland commission, and these commissions oversee development in their towns. And if there are wetlands, when someone wants to put in a strip mall or wants to build a house or build a business, they have to go before the wetland commission. Well, the commissioners are appointed usually by the mayor of each town, and a lot of them don't have a background in ecology or in the environment. So this training video is meant to train them and sort of bring them up to speed. And the DEEP does do a live training session every year, several times a year. But what happens when someone gets appointed, in the middle of March when the next training session is not for 8 months? Well, the video is meant to fill that void. And that video, the first one, was an hour long, and it went over all kinds of things. The history, the ecology, you name it. I felt like it was a college class, 10 college classes for me. Then there was a part 2, which was maps and site plan reading. So those big site plans that when they come before Planning and Zoning Commission, any developer, that was the biggest request from inland wetland commissioners. How do I read this thing? Because it looks like a giant mess of lines. What do all the symbols mean? What do the lines mean? So
I would think that would be hard to do and not make very dry and boring.
Right. And
so how did you manage it?
Well, what we did is we came up with Barbara Rogers and I came up with an idea that there would be a fictitious commission, Inland Wetland Commission, and one of the members is new, and we filmed this in Middletown. He comes in, he sits down, and he looks at the map, and he can't understand it, and the map comes to life and starts talking to him.
Wow.
And it's kind of funny because, no one else in the room sees the map. It's all in his head. But there's the North arrow comes to life and talks to him, Nancy North, and we had one of our students animate that, who's gone on and is in school in Florida studying animation. He did a great job animating Nancy North, and we had an actor portray sort of the narrator who talks to, and we had multiple actors. We hired 15 different actors to pretend they were a commission, and that's sort of the what makes it interesting. Then it becomes a normal corporate video in the middle where they teach the stuff. But the in and out, of each chapter is, fun and creative, I think.
It sounds like it.
And so the third video in the series we just started last year, and it's on the functions and values of wetlands and watercourses. And it's basically, why should we protect wetlands and watercourses, rivers and streams? And we've interviewed about 14 people. We're interviewing someone next Monday on different scientists and different wetland people, and it's been fascinating. This past summer, we went up and down the whole Farmington River and filmed a fishway and a dam. We filmed kayakers. We filmed the headwaters. Where
are the headwaters?
There's actually two branches to the Farmington River. There's an east and west branch, and we went on the eastern branch. There's a giant lake up there with a dam. And the western branch, I think, goes all the way up to Mass. So we decided on that branch, and we'd gone to this rapid area where people kayak, and they had just opened the dam up because we had gotten a lot of rain. And so by luck, there were all these kayakers, and then about 20 college kids show up with tubes. And they went tubing down the river, and that was kind of fun. So those kind of things are what make my job fun. Waiting for all these students who had coolers full of different beverages, and they were trying to get in the river, and their tubes were falling over. And I have this all on video if you want to see.
So you're a witness to the event, yeah.
So that video will be done next fall, and it's going to be a 45-minute video.
On the Farmington River?
Well, no, on wetlands and watercourses. The Farmington River is just part of that 45 minutes.
And can people see that on the DEEP website? Or
yes.
These films are up on that?
Oh, yeah. If you go to the ct.gov/DEEP or DEP, there's a video library with most of the work that we've done here at the college in the Corporate Media Center.
Is the ice fishing one up?
Yes.
Okay, I just have to. I'm so incredibly curious about it. How long a film is it? Do you remember?
It's 8 minutes.
8 minutes. That's not long enough to use an auger to drill a hole. So how did you do it?
We were filming a project. It's always like you're working on another project, and you happen to be out on a frozen lake. We were doing the 40th anniversary of Earth Day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also the 40th anniversary of the creation of the Department of Environmental Protection. We were out filming on a frozen lake, and we happened to get people ice fishing. And then we got a request from the fishing division, and they said, we want to do an intro to ice fishing.
Like how to?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we actually did film some up on the hill behind Snow Hall. The one day it snowed last fall, which was perfect because, the whole video it's snowy and white. And that one day we needed shots of, hooks and things. And so the ground was white with snow. Good. And it melted by noon.
So you had to get out there quick,
yeah.
Right, before the sun takes over.
Right.
But do people ice fish here in Connecticut in little houses?
Some of them do.
But mostly it's sitting on a 5-gallon white plastic bucket?
Yeah.
Right.
Some of them, build structures. Some of them, one of the guys we interviewed said he loves fishing up in Rocky Hill because he can set all his tip-ups, go back to his car with the heat on, and watch for them to pop up.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. That is, people do go car fishing in Minnesota, which is really bizarre. But that's because they drive their cars on the lakes all winter long.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you could do that here unless it was a deep freeze.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to check it out. Well, so if somebody listening to this radio program is interested in finding out whether or not your crews could do a film for them, how would they reach you?
They could call me at the 860-343-5812 or email me. That's an even better way, through Nocera@MxCC.edu, and I'd be glad to call them back or contact them and talk about their project. That's usually how it starts.
It sounds like actually that your clients have got to help you a lot, right? Because you're the filmmaker, but they've got the content,
right?
And you have to somehow marry that, so you end up with the product you want.
Right. We have a few meetings and talk about things and throw ideas. It's very collaborative, and then we move forward with a proposal, and then from there a script, and then we come out with the cameras and shoot. And then the longest part is when we edit and put the whole piece together. And the clients can come and sit in on those sessions, right toward the end, or I can just send them. Nowadays, you can just send them a rough cut through YouTube or whatever.
And they can decide if that's, if the material is what they want or if they want to do some more. I mean, no, I think you have a great job.
I do.
You work for a great college, and that's
I do.
all. It's all perfect. Well, thanks for coming to meet with me today and talking
Thank
about
you.
videos. I want to learn more, and I want to see the ice fishing one. This has been the Middlesex Moments radio show, and I've been visiting today with Dan Nocera, and he gave you his email address quickly, but it's DNOCERA at
Correct.
MxCC.edu. That's also our college's web address, MxCC.edu. Take a look. We're pretty fascinating things happening here in Middletown and in Meriden. I'm Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, wishing you a good day.